see, and I'm not seeing any open space for kids or anything.
No, and there's this clubhouse and a pool. I would imagine that would be HOA owned. It's not just gonna be a public pool.
But if they took out, say this,
And here's all the landscape buffer. I wonder if they're counting that as their open space, existing.
yeah, but what,
easement.
that's just,
They can't even
it
touch
looks
it.
like it just show, it's trees all through there. But
Yeah.
so I would think you would take out that one right there, make that a little playground right there.
Yeah, I think so. But again, it's gonna be HOA owned. Okay.
Well, there's some things that could be changed on that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. We're ready. Oh, did we put there's a camera up there?
Yeah, but I gotta change it.
It's fancy.
The camera.
Yeah.
Miss a couple of meetings and
Good.
One's on YouTube, one's on Facebook.
Are we ready? Yeah? Okay. Maybe this is Dustin.
yeah.
Hey, Dustin.
Start.
Like, can you do a pledge for us?
Sure.
Awesome. All right. All right, welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Neal, and then I will do an invocation for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this beautiful day and this opportunity we have to meet together as a group and as a city to discuss city matters. We ask that we may have thy Spirit to guide us and direct us in all that we do. And we ask that this city may be watched over and protected always. We love thee and we ask for this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, roll call. So Commissioner Ma is excused, as well as Commissioner Faulkner. They cannot attend. I'm going to go ahead and read the opening meeting statement. All those attending should have signed in. I'm going to explain the process that the Planning Commission will use in making decisions and the rules that govern the agenda items or hearings. The Commission is interested in receiving public input and treating everyone fairly. In order to treat everyone fairly, it is important that everyone understand that the Planning Commission is governed by Utah state law and the Plain City zoning and subdivision regulations. These codes can be found online, which contain the criteria that the Planning Commission must follow in making its decisions. Persons making presentations or providing comments shall address the Commission from the podium or microphone and not from the audience. Persons shall state their name and address and will direct their comments to the Commission and may not directly question or interrogate other persons in the audience. The Planning Commission has adopted rules regarding outside contacts, otherwise known as ex parte communications. Commissioners are not to engage in communications outside of the public meeting regarding administrative applications. If you desire to speak to commissioners, it should be done at a regular meeting so your comments, concerns, and evidence are on the public record. So let's go down the row and see if anybody has anything. Commissioner Ortega.
I did not.
None.
None?
None.
Okay. I did have a couple. I had a conversation with Mark Peterson about a cluster subdivision that they're looking at doing. If you guys remember, we just did the zoning change on 2200 North. So they're talking about now doing a cluster there. I do have some documents for us to look over. We had a technical review for it. I guess we'll talk about it then. We can save it for that. And then my other conversation was with, I got an email from Parker regarding Homestead. Homestead?
It's a
Yeah,
property.
yes. Yeah, Homestead. He received a notification from, in fact, let me read the email because I think you'll find this interesting. And this was to me and the mayor. He says, in working with Mountain View Irrigation for the Homestead Acres project, we've run into some water conservation restrictions that negatively impact this project that I'd like to discuss with you. We are being limited to a maximum of 4,000 square feet of sod and 1,650 square feet of drip for each of these acre-sized lots. This is just over 10% of the entire lots that can be landscaped. That leaves an incredibly large percent of the lot that can potentially become weeds. So with that being Mountain View Irrigation, is there anything as a city that we could do? That's not us, right?
No, that's an independent.
Does he just not have enough water shares?
That's what it
to me.
sounds
That's
like.
it. They don't have a lot of water shares. Okay.
You have to turn over a certain amount for whatever, so
You do to
That's
even
a
get the will serve letter, right?
that's a development
Well, to get
issue,
the,
not necessarily a,
Was that just for the initial build? Because who's gonna enforce that once they buy those homes and decide to put it in a backyard?
Good question. So with them being new homes, they would have water meters on their secondary, right?
so Visionary Homes has an 1 hour and 36 minutes of time.
For the whole thing?
Yeah, see the Visionary Homes, 136.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Not per acre?
I'm pretty sure there's a state requirement too, that they have to have so much water, secondary water, in order to get culinary, right?
Right, well, they have to turn over so many shares
over so many
like that to get that approval for the culinary.
The state would have that.
And to me, an hour 36, I mean, I had an hour, you know, and I have,
Well, that's not gonna be any close to
and,
that.
you know, an hour will get me, and I have we had 10 acres like that, but of course I was like that, so. Yeah, I often wondered when I see them on the schedule like that, but that's what they have, an hour 36.
They're gonna run into the same problem that they're running,
Sage
west
Creek.
of there, at Sage Creek.
Sage Creek.
Started a development now they can't get water for.
So you can't just buy more water shares.
Can if someone will sell them to you. Create new
But
water shares.
People
don't-
typically don't sell shares, right?
Right.
No, not on
Unless
that
you're-
north ditch is hard.
Yeah, unless you're forced to turn them in.
Yeah, the north ditch is probably really hard.
So as a city, I don't see anything we could do. I mean, that would be between the developer and Mountain View, right?
On
Right.
Vista.
And
A
Bonavista.
lot of times the developer might go to Weber Basin and see if they'll sell them some additional, but,
Which I honestly, I understand Bonavista's point, right? Because they're just gonna use culinary if they can't get enough secondary.
right.
So I get that for sure. Okay.
Well, that's,
I haven't quite known how to respond to him, so I was gonna call the mayor and we could come up with a response together.
I mean, yeah, you talk to John about it and then but I'm not sure what his point by that is like, okay,
I think his point is if they're forced to do it this way, they're just gonna have a tiny piece of sod and they're just gonna leave the rest.
I don't know.
Which-
Ordinances, I don't know if it'll meet ordinance.
You could zero-scape a bunch, but
well, then you get run into, if you get a bunch of weeds, then you run into our nuisance ordinance. Weeds and stuff like that, then you're gonna have a lot of complaints.
But also, you're gonna get a bunch of homeowners that buy it, and they're gonna want to do more sod on their own.
Yeah,
So again, to Rob's point, I don't know how you enforce that long-term.
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird that he's asking us about that because I'm pretty sure there's secondary water requirements that have to be met in order to get culinary, so I think he's gotta work that out.
And it goes back to, he's got like 28 acres there, and he's that an hour and a half, basically.
Yeah, so if that was pasture, you wouldn't have enough water to irrigate.
No, you don't, it never was.
Except when it floods.
So just to be clear, you're being contacted by the developer.
Yeah, that's Parker who came in and talked to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's being restricted by who?
By Mountain View Irrigation, so the secondary water company is
They're
saying.
telling him how much sod he can put in?
Yeah, well, so they said the amount of water shares that you turned in, you only get enough water to do this much sod. It's a tiny amount.
And this is really watered down information here, but when I was going through that stuff, somewhere the number of 3 acre-feet of water is the requirement for secondary, is what like Weber Basin and maybe Bonavista and that requires for per acre of ground or whatever, square foot of ground or whatever, 3 acre-feet of water. And so all the different companies, like Mountain View wanted 100 shares, Pine View wanted 78 shares, and I was like, why do you guys want different shares? Why is, you know, I started researching it, and they're like, well, this is the acre-feet requirement that you have to meet as far as water goes, and then all the different companies had their own version of how many shares that was gonna be.
So you're saying theoretically he could go to Pine View and potentially get a better deal?
My guess is that Pine View doesn't go out there. Do they go out there? Mountain
No.
View's there and Pine View's not, is what my guess is.
Neither.
Oh, neither are.
No, not from where I'm at, but he must be coming from where Still Creek's at, coming from.
Coming down that way? Yeah. But either way, I mean, if he's that far off, he's got a long ways to go before he,
It's a lot.
But my question now is, did he bring in a will serve letter?
I thought he did. That would have been part of his application.
yeah.
So to your point though, was it a will serve letter or was it a
Availability.
availability? Oh, gotcha.
But that doesn't answer the question. Did he have a will serve letter?
We have to go back and look at what it was.
Yes. He did? So then why is it now is the son,
We'll have to look into that.
something's not right, because Mountain View is the secondary source.
Yeah.
So why would the culinary be approving it, but,
Yeah, they would have had to get the secondary to get approved on the,
right, so it'd be interesting to know how they got the will serve.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
okay. Well, I'll keep you guys updated in the loop on
Well,
that.
since you're on that discussion, I was gonna wait this for commission comments, but we talked about the ditch and like that before.
Yeah.
And back in, as Shauna says, I keep a lot of stuff. So back in August 8th of 2013, we had this issue with easements and ditches and like that. And at that time, we had Brandon Richards here, and in the minutes, he stated, if the city requires the developer to place fencing along the canal and the canal company cannot access the easement, this company could sue the city for hindering easement access by imposing a fence requirement. So we need to make sure there's an easement
So we
that's
talked
open.
about it. I talked about it with Dan. We kind of came up with the conclusion that it needs to be piped.
It can be piped, but still.
Ditch?
Yeah.
An easement.
We think it needs to be ditched. Parker didn't like that because that's kind of the appeal, right, is, it's an, I don't know.
Wait, because there's the creek.
Well,
And then
so
there's the
yes, that's
ditch.
true. The creek was the appeal, not the ditch, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But as far as safety reasons, and I think you found in our subdivision ordinance, it says that irrigation ditches need to be piped within the subdivision. So.
right, so it's still,
gotta
it can be
pipe it.
piped, but still has to have an easement in case if we have.
Yes, and-
So that's the issue is, so it doesn't require a fence, but it'll be piped, but we still have to have that easement. And it has to be shown on the plat, which it wasn't. And so, but go back to him wanting the creek left open, because it was appeal. If you look at Still Creek, they had to pipe all that. If you go back there, you'll see a little spot where it's all gravel like that. That's over, It's been piped and gravelled over.
Honestly, I think it makes sense to make him pipe it, because it's a liability for the city.
And it's be consistent with what we require a Still Creek to do.
Yeah, it's true. Yep, we should pipe it.
Anyway, so, yeah, so it was interesting reading Brandon's comments regarding how the city could be liable for, if we make it so that the irrigation company can't get in there by them fencing.
It does. Okay.
Didn't we have that problem too, right here on the Palmer subdivision that Cody Reese was doing when that ditch went through the middle there? We had to have it spelt out and then written on the plat.
Right. Right.
Okay, all right. That was a long ex parte communications, but we'll talk more about the Joe Marsh one in a minute. All right, moving on to public comments. So if anybody here or online has a public comment to make, please come up to the podium and go ahead. Tammy, can you see if anybody's online?
I was gonna say, we don't see anybody that's on there.
Okay.
Even Dan, I don't see if he's on there. He's on there?
I'm here.
Hi, Dan.
Hello. You guys
Hey.
sound so better.
All right, let's go ahead and do approval of the minutes. This is all the way back to July 11th. Perfect, thank you. Okay. All right, well, I didn't have any issues.
I read through them, so you guys can go ahead and read through them, but I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes for July 11th, 2024.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now going to technical review. So let's talk about the Joe Marsh thing. Okay, so again, this is just off of 2200 North, 3600 West. Not the corner lot, but in a little bit further east. So they came in and got everything rezoned to 18.5, which was according to our future land use map. They came back and asked to potentially look at a cluster plan, and this is what they produced. So the section there that is highlighted would be the open space that they are offering. Just to clarify, that is it a ditch? What is it? There's an irrigation pipe. So there is something there going through that spot. And so I'm guessing that's why they want to offer that up.
That's nice though.
Well, we're not supposed to really
Oh,
count that,
nature
we're not really supposed to count.
No.
We don't
that
wanna pipe
historic-
this ditch, so we're gonna use it as open space and give it to you.
It reminds me of that time Nielsen Homes came and offered us the power line corridor.
Yeah.
Like, you guys can have this.
You can have the whole corridor. Oh,
Yeah,
sweet.
it's not yours to give.
So I would,
And one more thing, just to clarify, so by doing the cluster plan, it adds 2 additional lots, is what we're giving up, as far as density. So that is not significant, but the lots themselves will shrink a good amount with the
what's,
open space.
small size, I don't have my magnifying glass.
Yeah, there's a lot of small lots that are well under 18.5.
That one says 12. It looks like there's a bunch of 12s. There's an 11. I think 11 was the smallest one that I saw. But they do still have some 18.5s on the very west side. So west side, they're still good size. The middle ones are actually good size as well. Those are halves. So yeah, it's just the east side.
A little bit on the north.
Yeah, and on the north shrink a little bit too. So this is just kind of a preliminary plan. I don't love that open space that they're giving us.
Oh, doesn't really count towards,
No, and they did mention that it would be HOA owned. I talked to Mark Peterson the other day on the phone, and he said that they thought that it had to be. I said, no, it could be deeded to the city, depending on what it is, and we could maintain it potentially. So, I don't know if we're necessarily needing more grass. I don't know what you guys are thinking about amenities that you'd like to see. If we want another pickleball court, or, I don't know. Yeah, with a, yeah.
Doesn't look very wide either, like it's
No.
pretty narrow.
No, and it's split by a road, too.
And if it's got a ditch going through it, I mean,
Do you know, does the ditch extend all the way to the north part of it, too? Hey, Dan, on this cluster plan for Joe Marsh, that open space, does it have a pipe running all the way up?
It's a pipe, and it's like a quarter above ground. You can see it when you go out there. Yeah, so it's not all the way, it's not even all the way under the ground. And then they also have sewer that runs straight through there too, that they've got to try to get alignment on. That goes through the Buddy's subdivision.
an existing sewer line that runs through there?
Yeah, it comes from the north subdivision and it goes straight through, and then it goes through the south subdivision and then drops into 1975. Because we don't have sewer up at the top coming down 2200.
That's right.
So what are your initial thoughts on this?
I don't like the
Love it.
proposal.
I don't love how small some of the lots get. I like how some of them stay pretty big. They could maybe even that out a little bit more. I don't love the open space at all.
No, that doesn't even count as open space.
No, yeah, it's not open space. All of that aside, would you guys be open to a cluster subdivision right here? As far as the city map goes, does this feel like a pretty good spot? No? You'd rather see 18.5s?
Well, it's only a difference in two lots, so, 18, let's stay consistent with 18.5 and like that. So he's,
Rob, what do you think?
I'm not sure where we are here. What's the streets?
This is the,
Right by that,
right here.
right by the church.
Church is right here. Elementary's right here.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So they're coming out onto this road. What's this road? 22?
22. And then it'll extend up into that existing subdivision up above.
I can show you right here, Rob, if you want. Here's the church. This is the four-way. My house
Can
is
you
down
see-
here.
can you see
This
that
is
pipe?
the property right here.
How far can you zoom in?
It's probably that right there.
This street here, is that stubbing into that neighborhood to the north?
Yeah, that probably goes in right here.
Okay.
Okay.
I just don't think we need a cluster there. I don't know. I'd like to know what the purpose is of the cluster, because this isn't it.
The elementary school is almost across the street from that, so you got tons of open
Yeah.
space and park space and stuff there, and
I mean, the point of the cluster is not so they can deed us a ditch. That's,
Well, then we had somebody come in and talk about doing high density right here
yeah,
in some of this. Is that Kent's?
that's
Oh,
Kent's.
it's
by
not.
Kent's,
So they talked about south, trying to squeeze some high density in just south of Kent, so.
well, the zoning on that was that, and it's still, I think the general plan is still supposed to indicate that it's park. It's supposed to be open for park right there. But then, well, of course, this is back with Mayor Higley. We discussed it that, yeah, they could have a park in there, but then we would look at probably a senior housing type thing there, kind of past, to the west a little bit, because then that gives them close, seniors close to a grocery store to go to very easily, pharmacy, all that sort of stuff right there.
Do you like that idea, or is that something you'd like?
Well, that was what we kind of looked at, and I believe the general plan still shows that as being for right there on 3600 Park.
Yeah, see, that's what that would make sense, if we can go over to.
But if you go west, then we'd have,
We got the Kents right here. If they do a park along 3600, that's something that I think would be really cool. And then I'd be willing to give them some higher density here, like old folks,
yeah, the senior down in the west side there.
or even some, I don't know, townhouses.
Talking about what they have at the
Townhouses.
square, those kind of homes.
Yeah.
Those
Where
are
it's
nice.
hidden away from the main streets. You know, you'd go in there, maybe even have a row of like single-family units, and then some higher density tucked into here. And then you're close to the elementary school, so that cuts down on a lot of traffic going to the store and the school and the church. Then you got the pipeline to the freeway right here. So this would make a lot of sense if they give us like a decent park right here along this main road, right by the school.
Remember who owns that, but they called me probably a year ago and said that they asked if we would let them do apartments there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
And like a bunch, they
Wow.
wanted to really pack them in.
so how close, because immediately right, behind Kent's owns that.
Yes,
Yeah, that's Kent's owner.
yes. And then, but there's a spot between that and the school still, right?
I think they own all the way to the school.
Do they?
And then
Yeah, I
Cody
think so.
owns back here. I don't know where his
That new
starts.
subdivision right here.
Yeah, it goes back, but then he owns right
gotta
up to
get
the
it.
Kent's property.
Subdivision, our subdivision's not even in there.
I know.
Yeah, this is an old picture.
What the heck is this thing?
It was old.
That's weird.
Okay, all right. Just really quick, just to finish out this cluster thing, Jared's comments were, Jared mentioned he doesn't see that this will work for the area. Also, he'd like to see the open space on one lot instead of two, which I agree, and wider. So anyway, I'll give those comments back to,
Another thing is
Back to
that
Joe
the
Marsh.
traffic from this is gonna probably have to come out and go past the school. Right? Cause they can't go,
you can go north, but I don't know if you would, because then you have to drive all the way through that subdivision.
yeah, north through the subdivision. I don't know if we wanna send more traffic through the subdivision than we have to. And so there's just really not a good way to get the traffic out of there. And so I don't wanna put any more units in there than we have to, especially if we're not getting anything useful back. If we're just getting a ditch,
You don't want
a bunch of weeds on it.
you
then
don't want a
no.
30-foot strip of
Right.
grass.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
anyway.
All right, yeah, I'll give him that feedback. Okay. Let's go into our legislative items. We're gonna have a discussion on the residential overlay zone with public amenities. So if you guys remember, just to catch us all back up, this is in regard to the mayor coming to us and saying, would you guys do a new cluster-type subdivision that allows higher density? Sorry, not cluster, residential, and we said no because there already is one. So now we're going back into the existing one to see what we would change. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because as far as we know, this has never been used, right? Yeah, we should. I'm sorry. Thank you. We had another TRC. Sorry, everybody. Let's back up. Okay. It's this one. It's this big paper one that's long.
Oh, this ugly one right here?
Yeah. Oh, you don't like that? Okay. Okay. So 2700 north, right out, just west of the S curve. So I guess 2600 north, right? So this was, she's got on here, she put Nielsen Homes. It's not Nielsen Homes, it's LH Perry Investments. They own this land. What they want to do, so that's zone commercial. So they want to put, it looks like some strip mall type stuff on the front. And a city of townhouses just behind it.
Where is this as far as east and west?
So this is 2600 north.
This is basically JDC Ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah, right next.
So it's right on the S curve, just barely west.
Borders the
The new
garbage.
development. Yep.
See this?
Yeah. So that's the county land that they're cramming everything in.
Which,
Okay.
if I remember right,
So it's this little piece right in here.
this section is already zoned commercial, right?
Yeah, this whole section,
I think-
actually.
So just over here though too, they talked about potentially putting a big box store there. After they were done talking to us, they went on to talk to the county, and I don't know where that ended up. But I think they were talking about doing some serious commercial there. We'll see.
Putting it here or where?
They're talking about doing a big box store just
In this little
like over
section.
here.
So it'd be to the east, but it'd be on the county property.
Yeah, it'd be on the county property. Okay, so if you guys notice, this is a lot of townhomes. Probably an uncomfortable amount. And then off to the right here, there's a pool with a clubhouse that would be HOA driven, so it would not be open to the public. So essentially no open space. So, based on that, what are your guys' thoughts? No?
They're packed a little too tight in there.
They are.
So the case I'd give for it is that it's right at the end of the city. It's on 2600 north, the pipeline out of the city, so we're not sending any traffic through our city. Goes right to the freeway. I think this is, if we need more commercial and some more, rooftops and stuff, I think this is a good place to put it. If we're looking for some higher density, I think this would be a good place to put it. I don't think we need it this high. That's way too many to shove in there. But if we could do like a nicer development there of townhomes, I don't think I'd mind this location. Does that make sense?
Just to clarify, Shauna did tell me one other thing. Hold on, let me read it. Okay, she said also these townhomes would be approximately 2,000 square feet and include a garage for around 400,000 apiece. This is much better than what Nielsen was offering, which is true. They are restricting the sale. Oh, never mind. Nielsen Homes, this is different. Nielsen Homes is building 900 square feet units.
Yeah, they add an additional 250 to that 700.
Well, wait, that was, I'm not sure if it's square foot, but they've added more rooftops. They went from 750 up to 1,000. The county approved them to go to 1,000.
So Shauna's notes say that some of those will be 900 square foot units. No garage. And they would be restricted to selling to teachers, first responders, or first-time home buyers.
Which I'm pretty sure is against the law.
Oh, really? To discriminate like that?
Pretty sure it is. I could be wrong, but
Well, I don't think 350,000 is affordable anyway. 900 square feet for 350,000? I don't know who would buy that.
That's what they're going for.
we're not using the affordable word anymore. It's
Attainable,
Attainable, yeah.
meaning I can get a bank to approve me? Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, that's all the notes I have on it from Shauna. Either way, I don't like this at all.
She probably thought this was part of that because it's tied to the borders are the same.
So I do think it's a good spot, echoing Rob, I think it's a good spot for commercial. It's probably a good spot for some higher density. This is insane. I don't like this at all.
I like the idea of the 2,000 square feet plus is it attached garage in the unit? Is that what we're talking?
Yeah, 2,000 square feet attached garage.
That's what I'd like to see if we do townhomes, is something.
Yeah. Also, I don't love the idea of a clubhouse and a private pool. I know Nielsen talked about doing something like that in their subdivision, but that means it's HOA driven. I don't know. Anyway, okay.
So these are the power lines, are these little marks right here?
Yes, that would be the power line corridor, just to the west.
So according to this is where our boundaries would be, city boundary. So this would be our county.
So you're saying this isn't even in Plain City?
Well, according to this, and so we'd have to verify if that little
Yeah,
bit,
That little pipe piece is in Plain City. Yeah, because it has a cutout right there. It's just east of the Diamond D subdivision.
yeah, there's Diamond D right there, and that is in
Right.
Plain City,
Yeah.
but on the
that
other
little-
side right here.
Yeah, that little pipe piece is in Plain City. It's got a weird cutout because that's where O'Reilly's was looking at going into. And
Dan, do
taking
you
out.
know, would this whole thing be HOA driven?
Yes, it would be HOA. I wasn't in favor of it being 109 units total. And you figure if you do that at least times by 2, that's a lot of vehicle traffic getting out of there on 2600, especially in the mornings. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's a lot of units to be packing in there.
Yeah. Dan, as a side note, have we heard anything from UDOT on their plans to improve 2700?
No, we have not, and that's why they had a meeting with UDOT, because I told them, I said, that would really be one of the things, is to see if they would even allow you to have the 3 accesses that you've got shown. And I says, because what UDOT's doing now is that they're condensing everything to minimize their entering and exiting onto the roads. So I said that could change your plan a little bit. So he, like I said, he had a meeting with UDOT later on this week, and then he was going to let us know, because that could change the plan.
Yeah.
I'm still interested in knowing about this over here, because I do know, because this is Penny Barnes, this is the Barnes property, and I know that she's county, because she's been real reluctant, and has talked to me numerous times.
But she's on the south side.
Yeah, right, but so right across the road. So how does this go?
No, she doesn't live on an island, does she?
Really, well, it's in between right there to there. So,
It looks like it's Plain City.
All right, Dan, we're gonna ask you for an update in 2 weeks, if that's okay.
Yeah, not a problem.
Because I'm very
Hey,
interested in this one not happening, so.
Yeah, that's like you said, that's going to be a lot of vehicle traffic right there.
yeah, it's too much,
Way too much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
especially if you add JDC in there and throw that in there.
Even worse.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
that road, I mean,
It's gonna be, we could just make it its own city, the whole area.
I was thinking that was a
Okay.
4 unit.
All right, now let's go on to the residential overlay.
There's 100, I counted.
So again, this is in response to the mayor wanting a new one, us saying nobody uses our old one. So we need to figure out why they're not using our old one and make improvements to it potentially to make it more appealing or more what we want as a city. Does that make sense? So just really quick, did anybody have a chance to look at this beforehand, or do we want to table it for next time when Shauna and Jared are here?
yeah, I think it'd be good to have their input as well.
Okay. And this isn't like a, we need to figure this out soon kind of thing. We have time on this. We're just trying to combat the state pushing attainable housing down our throats.
Are they penalizing us at all right now?
Not yet, nope, no, we're not, I don't think we're to that point yet, but I think we're gonna see something heat up in the next 6 months probably. We'll see.
But why, yeah, so we still have this, why would they penalize us? I mean, we've got something, they're just not using it.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
I think you
So
could
how
probably
can you
argue that
penalize?
it's pretty restrictive.
Oh,
I didn't think we wanted this to begin with and wanted it used anyway. I thought we did it because
yeah,
it
I
was.
thought it was,
I would agree with that. I think you, I don't know.
That's exactly what we want. it to
Yeah,
be.
I think it's perfect.
Okay.
I really do.
No, honestly, if that's the answer, that's great,
I
right?
really do.
I mean, we can't
yeah.
force the developers to use it. We can just make it available to them, and that's what we've done. And so if there's something wrong with it according to the state regulations, then we can change that. But if there's not, then they can use it if they want.
I think that there would be more appealing to developers if you threw out the public amenities, if you didn't have to require them to do something like that.
That's
But,
kind of,
but we want that, I want that.
it's kind of the part that makes it worth it.
I think that's the only reason to do it is to have the public amenities.
Right, exactly.
Well, and honestly, I think the mayor's goal is to make it easier for developers to build less expensive homes. But the argument there is that doesn't mean that they sell it for less.
Correct.
So
Well, we already know 900 square feet's gonna cost us at least 350,000.
I can't believe that. I still don't, that can't be real.
We can plaster
Right.
the whole city with them and call it affordable, but it ain't, so, or it's not, sorry.
They're gonna make us do subsidized stuff. That's what's gonna happen. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and let's put a pause on this. And we'll do it in 2 weeks when everybody's here. Again, just over the next 2 weeks, read through it and just maybe think of some things that you like or don't like. Maybe some potential changes we could make that would make it more appealing, but not worse for the city. Okay. Moving on to the discussion for the subdivision ordinance, chapter 8. So we had a work meeting on this about a month ago because there's a lot of gray area around the application process. And Tammy, you're gonna have to help me with my memory a little bit here. We went through the whole thing, not the whole thing, but what we kind of came up with is a plan. Oh, we don't have the little, oh, there's the little map. So a couple of things. We as a city get to determine when the application is deemed complete. We talked about only doing that 2 days a month, right, Tammy? Yes. So what we can do, because once we determine that it's complete, the clock starts and we have 15 days to respond. That does not have to be in a public meeting. That can be done outside of a meeting. But by picking 2 days a month to say, this is the day that we review applications and determine whether or not they're complete, we can target that in a way that allows the 15 days to capture at least one planning commission, in case we want to do a public hearing. But the goal would be application deemed complete, then Dan and Brandon have a chance to go through it and include us in their thoughts, right? As you know how we used to get the little notices that say, hey, we reviewed it, here's our comments. So we'll have an option to get the first round of that. We will also at that point have a chance to review their comments, review the plans.
Hey, you said Brandon, what, Brad?
Brad, I'm sorry, Brad, not Brandon, Brad. So then we would get involved, we would have a chance to review their comments, we'd have a chance to review the plans, we would be able to give our comments. Those would all be compiled and sent to the developer. At that point, they have a chance to respond. They have to do it in a certain number of days or else it extends our days. We do have the chance to do a public hearing in that time if we want. But another thing that we discussed, Tammy, you'll have to help me on this one. So we discussed, we still want to do reviews in planning commission, and we talked about having all the reviews done the first planning commission meeting of every month, the approvals being done on the last planning commission of every month. And if we do it that way, that works out the schedule so that we hit all of the deadlines without getting in any trouble.
And it wouldn't just be the reviews, it'd be like what you're talking about tonight, the subdivision ordinance, anything
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Would be the first of the month, and I don't know if you used to do it like that, Blake, but Diane mentioned it.
No, we didn't really set, something like that, no.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts? We talked with the whole group and everybody thought that this would be a good way that would keep us out of trouble.
Well, I know that we didn't do our due diligence on that one, the Heritage, and so I liked Rob's suggestion on how the review process like that.
Yeah, and ultimately, we felt pressured to push that one through, right?
Yeah.
And looking back, so again, the comments don't have to be given in a public meeting. They just have to be given within the 15 days, right? And then here's the other thing. This is where it was a little bit gray for me. So we have a certain number of days to do the approval, but that doesn't mean approving it officially in a meeting, right? It just means letting the developer know we don't have any more problems. We don't see any issues. We will be approving it in our next meeting. We have 20 days to tell them it's okay. That doesn't mean to actually approve it, though. Are you sure? Because we discussed this, because there could potentially be issues with
Sorry.
public hearings, right?
So which meeting are you talking? Are you talking about our review meeting or the? Okay. You said 20 days after a meeting. I'm asking which meeting you're talking about.
We have 20 days to approve it after they respond.
You don't have to tell him it's final here. You have 20 days to tell him that. You can do it in writing. It's in the subdivision ordinance. I don't know if I said.
So hold on, okay, hold on, let's back up. So we deem the application's complete. We have 15 days to give them a list, specifically detailed list of what they need to do. They then have 20 days to respond to us with changes. We then have 20 days after that to review it. And if we choose, we can go through another cycle.
Right, I'm saying, let's say everything's done. You don't have to approve it in this meeting. We're to the final, everything's done. We've gone through all 4 cycles.
So who decides the application is complete?
Dan, hold on.
When the application comes in, I see the things that, I can't see what the engineer did. I don't know the ordinances, I'm not gonna be looking for those, I'm just gonna look. Make sure he's paid his fees, make sure he has availability letters, all those things that I can physically see. But what I'm saying is, we're all done, we've gone through this review cycle, now it's final.
I still want to know who's done that determines the final
Okay,
application.
so it's gonna be a staff member. So, because the developer is bringing all their paperwork into the staff, correct? So the staff will go through, they'll have a checklist, and they will say, and again, they're gonna do it on specific days of the month to help with the timeline. And they will say, okay, we're reviewing it today, everything's here, it is officially complete. And then from there, correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, from there it goes to Dan and Brad and us. Then Dan and Brad will give their comments to us as soon as they can. We will review it in our first meeting of the month. Does that make sense?
There's more things and it's not complete, then that's when we send it back with your comments, their comments.
Okay.
Well, so that's not incomplete, right? So you deem it's complete, or the staff, whoever it is. Once it's complete, it's complete.
application.
Yes, the application. Yes. It doesn't come to us until it's deemed complete, the application.
We're the ones that are gonna decide it's complete though.
No.
Yeah, I mean, what he's,
Hold on, the completion is everything being turned in. We're not gonna know that everything's turned in, right? Yes.
But we don't officially accept it as a complete until we decide that it's complete.
It doesn't have to be the planning commission.
That's what we're saying is that it should be the planning commission.
Is that what you're saying?
So if after July 11th, let's put some dates on it, okay? So after July 11th, somebody brings in an application. She takes it, she reviews the parts that she does, she sends it to Brad and to Dan. They review their parts, they try to get everything to us, so that on today, the first of the month, our first meeting of the month, we will look at everything and decide if it's a complete.
No, because, hold on.
Okay.
We don't need to do any reviewing, Dan, Brad, us, we don't need to do any reviewing until it's complete. When we're saying complete, we're just talking about handing in the paperwork, correct?
But you still have to review it to make sure, because you're gonna review, let's say it's incomplete. You're gonna review it to see if it's complete.
Is that what we decided?
So the,
That's what it says in the ordinance, that's what we're using.
I thought we decided not to do it that way.
So it's basically just sitting in an inbox for all intents and purposes until it comes to this meeting when we meet on the 8th of August. And so she's had a chance to review her part, Brad and Dan have reviewed their parts, and they send everything to us, and they recommend, okay, this is all complete. We look at it, make sure everybody's satisfied, all the staff is satisfied, and it looks complete. Then we say, yes, as of today, this is complete, and that starts the clock for we have to have a meeting, within 15 days to do the approval. And so that gives us 2 weeks to go over everything, try to find any ordinance that's out of everything, and then in 2 weeks from now, we get to review it, or not even review it, like in 2 weeks from now, if we haven't found anything, then we approve it.
Okay.
Does that sound right to you? Okay.
Okay, all right, so they turn everything in. It goes to Dan, Brad, and us. We determine in a meeting that the application is complete.
If it's complete. If it's not, then you write your, like Brad and Dan do with the memorandum. You're going to do that, and then I'm gonna send that back to them.
That would not be a motion, though. We would just, as a group, say, hey, this is what they're missing.
We'd say they're
Okay.
still missing this and this, so it's not a
Okay.
complete application yet.
But we do need to be careful. That does not have anything to do with them meeting ordinances or any of that stuff. It would just be,
The application.
is every part of their application present? We could also review other stuff at the same time. But as far as determining whether or not the application is complete, it is, did they submit everything, every piece?
Well, you have to determine if they are meeting those ordinances by that, what they give you.
Yeah, but that would be separate from the application, yes.
well, I think the pressure though, within that last one was, because he did say they had a application turned in and it was approved, that then that meant that it was final and okay, move ahead. Where in reality, in my opinion, because they didn't list the irrigation easement, didn't show it on the plat as it's called out in the ordinance, that would have been an incomplete application.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right. As a group, it would be good to sit down and say, okay, we have everything here, the will serve letters here, all this stuff, let's go. And then from that point, we have 15 days as a group to respond. They have 20 days to fix or resubmit. And then we have 20 days to either approve or deny. And then it goes through another cycle. Or table. We did determine we can table.
Well, if we give them something that they need to work on, that's effectively the same as tabling it. That's,
Yeah, effectively, yes. But we would want, we'd probably want a motion of some kind in that second planning commission, because I do think we have to make an official decision on it, whether it's approved, deny, or table.
yeah.
So, anyway, whew, that was complicated. There's gonna be some more learning curves. We don't have it perfected yet, and honestly, if we see things that we're doing good or bad, we can definitely change or adjust. But as far as I wanna get you guys' thoughts on the reviews on the first meeting of the month, approvals on the second meeting of the month. What are your thoughts?
So I would just be concerned, is there a time limit after they submitted their materials to us for you to determine whether it's a complete application, or is that just up in the air?
I don't believe there is.
Because if there's not, then let's do that. Let's just have it at the first of the month. I like that. The first meeting of the month, we're going to do reviews to see if it's a complete application. So it wouldn't be more than a month, because we would have done one the previous month, but it
Well-
could be up to, 28.
And one of the benefits of saying that is if you submit your paperwork on the 20th of the month, we have all the way until the first meeting of the next month to determine whether or not it's good.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and we'd give them official word usually on the first meeting of the month. If we decide it's complete, then we start the clock and the next meeting is when we'd have to either approve or deny or give them a reason not to approve or deny.
Okay.
I think probably what Diana was alluding to was we did have it so that on the first meeting of the month, we did preliminary, and they would make any recommendations for changes. They'd bring it back on the second meeting, and those changes been made, then final's approved. So it's basically the same.
But most of the stuff that we were doing in the
But all the
preliminary
changes
work,
made, then
we
it
put
goes
into the
back through the cycle.
application. now. Correct, like the application checklist. I mean, not all of it, but that's kind of what we're doing now, is instead of a preliminary, we're doing a very lengthy, clear-cut application checklist.
If it's complete, we have to approve them. If it's not complete,
Okay. It does. Do we have that kind of time, though?
Well, once it's turned over to them, if they don't have it complete by our next meeting, have it, because it needs to be a week before.
Don't do it, we just deny.
Okay.
sometimes it's just void. It's done.
We just say, start over. Okay.
I think.
If they don't have that, then it's got to go to the next month, the second meeting.
Okay.
But like I say, it would be on them, because you've done your part. Does that,
So,
If
let me
they
just,
fail to do their part, then it'll just go through the cycle again.
So that's weird, though. They just come in and they didn't change anything. We just say, try again. Then we just start another cycle.
if they didn't make the changes you asked,
Yeah.
then it's still in that, it stays in that review cycle.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they didn't make
Okay.
the
All right.
changes.
You're right. Okay.
So it doesn't move forward to another review cycle, it just stays there until they make those changes.
So overall, the whole point is it can't get stuck on us. It's like hot potato. You got to keep tossing it back. So anyway, we'll learn as we go, and luckily we're not cranking out as many subdivisions as we were 2 or 3 years ago. That would have been painful.
Initiate it then.
Yeah.
Better learn quick.
Yeah, you would. You'd get good at it. Okay. All right. We'll probably have more discussions on that because it's still a work in progress and it's pretty painful. All right, one
Oh.
more.
Can I ask one thing while we're on that? You mentioned in the email that that someone had some suggestions that you thought or Diane or something, or questions? She didn't have time to do it, okay. Okay.
All right. So this is the Western Weber County Active Transportation Plan. So we are all invited to a workshop if we want to go. It's just over here at Marriott Slaterville, August 22nd. So a week from, 2 weeks from today. From 2:30 to 4. So if you guys want to attend, could be pretty good. So we should probably I'll probably try and attend just so we at least have one of us. So anybody else who wants to come. And then there's a second one from 5:30 to 7. That is for everybody. So the first one's just for city staff. Second one is for everyone.
The general public?
Yes, the general public. It's one of those things where nobody shows up and then they all complain
Yeah.
later that
I
they
was
didn't
gonna
have
say,
a
the way
say.
the county's working right now, we probably better show up to all this stuff. Before we don't have a county.
That is true. Okay. I think that was it.
So who's putting this on? Is this,
I think it's the county, right? It's a county. Or UDOT. Yeah.
you don't,
Yeah, UDOT. Never know what those UDOT guys are doing.
well, it's 'cause stuff like that's usually like the Western Regional Council and stuff like that. doesn't really say on there, does it? That's why I was asked, because I didn't really see.
Well, he talked about the bridge over here.
Oh, yeah, but it makes it, we can't go through? Oh.
Yeah, what's the timeline on that? Do we know? Might be a Dan question.
16th
Of,
this month.
it's gonna be done?
Well, that's when they say, because they need it to, when I was talking with those guys, they said they have to have it by the school.
There's no way though, right?
I heard something about it could be a one-laner.
Oh, I was gonna say, I drove by that
Liars.
the other day and it didn't look great.
I can tell them the 16th and get everybody off your back.
Okay. All right, report from city council. Rob, did you by chance attend? Awesome, thank you. Jared did go, but he couldn't come tonight.
They mentioned something, they wanted to take a look at the duplex ordinance, and I didn't write down much about it. Jared
The
took a-
duplex, is that what it said?
Do we have a duplex ordinance?
Well, we do.
Are they talking about the ordinance that just allows for duplexes and
allows for duplexes, yeah,
10%?
something like that.
Well, then it also requires an actual acre,
Half acre.
half acre, yeah.
Half acre, but
Half acre,
like 150 feet of frontage or
Yeah,
something?
150 foot of frontage, but it has to be the true half acre and not the 20,000 square foot.
They wanna make it easier to build them, don't they?
I wasn't sure what they were saying, I just remember the mayor was saying he wanted to take a look at it, and I didn't know what the issue was.
The issue is we have too many of them. I'm just kidding. They're fine. I don't mind them.
See, then they had the rezone of the Joseph Marsh Mountain Estates. Snowview, sorry, it was Snowview Mountain Estates. They approved that for the rezone. I think we had that the meeting before. And then Brindley Acres. They had a long discussion about that because of the public and the private road and who was gonna take care of the sewer and all that. And so I think they're going with, they're gonna make everything private. And then they are gonna tie that into the other development, and that development's coming pretty soon.
To make that private, are we gonna have citizens complaining to us in a year or two that their roads aren't getting plowed?
That was, so Adam Favero kind of grilled him on that and said, you know, if those are private roads and people start using it as a way to get out, then you're gonna have citizens complaining to us about, you know, they're wrecking our roads and it's a private road and anything like that. And so, the developer said, you know, this is gonna be HOA owned, and if they have a problem with that, they're free to put up a gate. And everybody agreed, like, if they wanna put up a gate for that private road, they can. Which, you know, I don't know if that's what I'd wanna do, but he's not really worried about the extra traffic or people complaining about that, cause it's not really the best way to get out of the neighborhood anyway. And so, but if it becomes a problem, it's an HOA problem, not a city problem, and that's what we'll have to tell them. But I don't know that that's gonna be written anywhere so that people remember, but,
Yeah, we probably thought that was Still Creek.
yeah, that's what they're
Now that's a city problem.
having the same problem, but, it's not really set up the same way as Still Creek. Anyway. But in the end, they approved that. And they added that they were gonna do the utilities are also gonna be private, so they're gonna be taking care of their own utilities, so that we don't have to go in and cut their private road to get to the utilities. Next they had, the cameras. So the company that did these cameras in here, they're gonna, they came with a proposal for cameras at all the city parks and around here outside. They discussed it a whole bunch and decided to go just with the sole source instead of it opening it up for bid. And they approved that. It's about $155,000, and they're gonna put up all the cameras all over the city with all the parks, because they're having a lot of vandalism problems.
I don't know anything about cameras. Seems a little steep.
Seems a lot, but it's Actually, it also comes with the software and firmware, and there's updates that'll be happening and stuff like that. So like these, you know, that's not just the cameras, it's the software where people, the staff are able to like check it from their phones at home, you know, and they'll be able to, and it's gonna be the same software, so they're just adding to it, which is kind of the advantage of going with the same company, because they already have it here. But, they just kind of showed all the details of the cameras and stuff like that, but,
Good. We do have a weird amount of vandalism
yeah,
at
it's really.
Pioneer Park. It's weird.
And the things they're doing are really weird. Cutting down trees and putting them in toilets and stuff, but. And then that was it.
Okay,
Meeting.
awesome, thank you. I think next is August 15th. That's you. Are you
Yep.
able to make that?
No, so far.
All right. Okay, all right, let's do commissioner comments. Let's start with Commissioner Neal.
Although they probably didn't talk about it in city council, but I'm just curious, is Connex through doing their installs for the city? How come they didn't do out north? No, so,
I haven't seen him for a while.
that's it, I haven't either. I will. I've asked Connex, and the two people that I asked, they didn't know anything.
Interesting.
No, actually, we already discussed what, and that was about the irrigation and their liability of making sure that we have easements written on it and that they're open so that they don't come, this irrigation company doesn't come back on the city for obstruction, for us unfortunately to have an obstruction. Other than that, I don't have anything more.
Okay.
So with this approval process, if we approve something with conditions, is there a time frame on when they have to meet those conditions before we it goes?
We've
Or
talked
does it
about
just sit
this.
there for a year after that, or what?
We've talked about this, where
It's
conditions,
always these conditions.
they always come back to get us,
They
don't they?
always do, man. Somehow they always
It's
do.
like 6 months later, somebody's like, hey, didn't we say that they had to do that?
We approve it with a condition, yeah, then that just goes on and on.
I think that's tough. It almost, and maybe this isn't a great answer, but it almost falls on Dan as they're going through to make sure that they're actually doing what they're saying they're gonna do. Because once we do that approval, we never see them again in here. They're just gone.
Yeah, because that irrigation stuff was part of the approval, right?
Yeah, it was. Well, so we actually, both the mayor and Dan said this when we were having a meeting about it, but if we miss something in our approval, like if we approve a plan that is not compliant with our ordinance, even though we didn't catch it, they still have to follow that, right?
Well, yeah.
So they have to pipe that ditch, even though we didn't catch it and we allowed them to have it approved with that, showing it that way, they still have to meet that ordinance.
Still have to meet the ordinance.
So, but that ultimately falls
But-
on Dan.
Okay, yeah, plus he needs to also make sure that it's on the plat, that the easement description is there, which we made, you know,
We did do that, yeah.
Hody-do and stuff like that.
So based on that, I would probably say we should avoid conditional approvals if we can.
I know.
Like that.
We say that, and we go hard on it for a while, then all of a sudden we get something that we're like feeling bad, and we're like,
know.
crap, we're sorry, we keep doing this, and then we do it, and then it just, it always seems to bite us, so
Yeah.
we probably need to draw a hard line on them, I think, don't you?
Yeah, we probably should. But keeping in mind that if anything is against an ordinance, it doesn't matter if we don't catch it, right?
Yeah, it's a valid point.
We don't have to make that a conditional approval. No, good question.
I think it'll be easier from here though, because we're not gonna be dragging people on for months, where we're forced to make a decision, yes or no, as soon as we are in the process. Like, if they're not meeting an ordinance, then we just say no, come back in 2 weeks, to me, you know.
Well, and I know Mike sent out some before, after the planning commission, he would have to send out what they call a notice of decision out, a letter, telling them, you know what happen. And I've got actually copies of, when Jared was the chair, you know, of him signing off on notice of decisions.
And I do those for Diane, but I've never sent them to the person. I just do them to her when they go to her meeting, but maybe that needs to change because they won't be going to her meeting.
Yeah, after we approve it, the only thing stopping them is the developer agreement and then like the inspections and stuff. But if they're not meeting the ordinance, they can't get a good inspection. And so I think even if we miss something, we have that as a backdrop, but it'd be good to have the extra couple weeks to review it, just in case.
That was it? Okay.
I think one of the, real quick, I think one of the things that might hold up our process is because we've got other entities involved in the whole process, because we are not the water purveyor, where a lot of cities, they are the water purveyor. And like I said, so in Bonta Vista, where they have their will serve letter and they have their two different letters, but they also, if they've got a full-blown packet, a subdivision packet, that has to be approved by the state. And they can't move forward until the state comes back and approves that subdivision. So there's going to be timelines on that. So, and then if we say, okay, well, on the second meeting of the month, that's when we're going to approve. Well, what if that falls on Thanksgiving? Then what are we going to do with that? So yeah, I just had to throw a wrench in a couple of things. So sorry.
Thanks, Dan. No,
Okay.
and that's a good point. Every November and every December, we only have one meeting. So we'll have to rethink how we do that. It's gonna be a problem. Okay. Rob?
Nothing else?
Okay. I don't think I have anything either. Okay. All right, if that's the case, let's have one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.